I'm Dennis Henning, and welcome to Living in My Mind. Hello, and welcome back to Living in My Mind. Today's episode is going to be on something that many people don't understand, and many people think that, it's a cool problem to deal with, but the reality is it's pretty devastating for those of us who deal with it and have dealt with it throughout our lives. Today I'm going to discuss sex addiction. I myself am a sex addict. I've been a sex addict for over 40 years of my adult life. And in 2016, I had met somebody, and that's when things calmed down. But prior to that, when you deal with someone who's a sex addict, many people don't understand what that means. Many people think you have a lot of sex. Many people think, well, it's a great thing. You got a great libido. What's the problem with being a sex addict? Well, the problem with being a sex addict, it's just like any other addiction. It destroys your lives. You lose out on relationships, you lie, you steal, you manipulate, you do anything you can to feed that addiction, whether it's with other people or on your own, whether it's with pornography, whether it's with escorts, whether it's with masturbation. You spend your days looking for someone to have sex with, looking for scenarios. Then when you have scenarios, then you take it as far as you can, hoping that you don't get caught. I myself, my sex addiction and issues around sex started when I was 12 years old. That's when I first saw a magazine at a store, and I was like, that's pretty interesting, naked ladies. And then it started me getting the books, me going to the store, pretending I was reading Sports Illustrated. I'd have the books in there. Then I would take magazines, and I'd go home, and I'd look at them. And reading about sex and seeing about sex that young of age warped my sense of reality as a child, as a teenager, and as an adult. I'm sharing this with you because many people I know don't understand this, and many people think that, well, because you're a sex addict, that means you can't control it. The reality is you can control it. It takes a lot of work. Over the years, it's not been easy. It's still prevalent on a day-to-day basis in my life. I think about it. I see women. I think of scenarios. I picture myself. I take a look at women and I say, wow, I could do this. We could do this. All these different things pop into my head, but the reality is I don't act on it. I literally have not been out with someone since August 16th, 2018. And between now and then, I've had a numerous amount of dates. I've canceled them all. The reason I've canceled because I know it would turn into something that would feed into that addiction, because not only was it an addiction, but I'm dealing with loneliness. You're dealing with isolation. Once COVID hit, it made things really interesting when it came to going online to meet people, whether it was on escort service lines, whether it was on sugardaddy.com or arrangement. They got all these great names, pretty funny to me, but they're real, they're realistic. And so it was easy to meet people and talk to people and make arrangements. But I never followed through because then it was me getting caught up in all the craziness of my past. And at the same time, in my life, up until the year 2016, had spent almost $600,000 dealing with escorts. Now, you might think, well, gee, you've had sex with a lot of people. I would make dates. 90% I would cancel. I would still give the money to the person because their time is just as valuable as mine, because it's in the moment. When you're in the moment, you're thinking about this. Sometimes you just don't know what to do. You have no idea how to stop yourself. Then when you follow through, and it's with someone, you might not be attracted to that person, and vice versa. There are men that are sex addicts and women that are sex addicts. Everybody has their own story. I'm just sharing what mine is, how it destroyed my life to a degree. Then you follow through, and then you feel so much shame and guilt because the fact is I paid someone to be with me. And the reality is I've never paid for sex, and this might sound odd. I pay for someone to go away. That's how I look at it. And that might be justification the wrong way, because I do believe over the history of the world, women have been screwed over. And let me tell you, if it's a mutual way of dealing with it, there's not a problem. And anybody can judge that or think that that's a wrong way to look at it. It's not a justification, but I think it's a truth, especially nowadays in the years we live in now. And this has been going on to, I think it's been the last 4 or 5 years when a lot of social media has made things more acceptable and more open. Like you see more porn stars on mainstream. You see athletes, celebrities hanging out with porn stars. They all make it. Well, what's the difference between someone who's an actress or an actor on a film and an actor and actress in porn? People watch for what they perform. And it's very interesting. My addiction destroyed me mentally and physically. On a personal note, I lost jobs. Um, I love playing games. I love doing things in public. I love taking things to the limit to where I could be caught. I mentioned on a podcast once a while ago that, I had sex in a church on an altar. I would take things to the limit, and I would know that I'd go to a restaurant, on a train, on a bus, public bathrooms, in a car, knowing that there's that little edge of me that's like, God, someone can watch. Not that I wanted to get caught, but I always jeopardize myself. Then having sex with people you don't know. I'm very blessed, and thank you, God, I've never had an STD. I've never had anything that's been transmitted. I'm very lucky. Then you push it to the limit. Okay, are you going to use condoms? Not going to use condoms. What are you going to do? How are you going to push that to a day-to-day basis? How do you get satisfied? How do you gratify yourself? And the answer is it's difficult. I've had to go to the hospital a few times. And the reason I had to go to the hospital, it's embarrassing, but it's honest, is from masturbating 6, 7, 8 times a day, which became very painful, extremely painful. And then you numb yourself, and then you start right back in the next day, putting yourself in situations to where they're unhealthy. In 2016, I was in Northern California, and I went online. I found someone to meet. I went to an apartment. I got to the apartment. I walked in the door. First thing that happened, somebody put a gun to the back of my head. And it was one of those moments where I thought, son of a bitch. The person robbed me. They took all the money I had. And there was a female there. She never said nothing when I walked in the door. And I walked out, and after that, I thought, wow, maybe I got the wrong site. Maybe I should have done a little bit more work. My mind was like, I got to have somebody. I need to do something. So you jeopardize yourself. Just like a drug addict or an alcoholic, we jeopardize ourselves. When you're driving down the street and you doing things such as masturbating or having sex, you're doing something like somebody else who's drunken on DUI. It might not sound like it's the same, but you're jeopardizing yourself and you're jeopardizing other people because you don't care at that moment. And then you surround yourself in relationships. Now, I'm not talking about someone that's momentarily, someone you met at a nightclub, someone you met at a restaurant, someone you met at a bar. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking if you start to see someone and spend some time with someone. Many times I spent time with women, and I know they took the fact that we had a lot of sex, a lot of fun, as crazy as could be. They took it that there was more of an emotional connection. And I was always very honest, whether that is a cop-out or whether that is justification, and let somebody know, look, this is purely sex to me. There ain't anything more. This is what's going to happen. If you feel like you're going to get closer, that's your problem, not mine. Well, after I started dealing with all these issues, I realized that was wrong because they had their own issues. It was two very dysfunctional people spending time together, and neither one of us was getting any help. With my sex addiction, it also put me in a position to not be able to succeed in life because I would work with certain people. I'd end up sleeping with them, and they were the bosses. Well, that's not going to last too long. I would also, if you hurt me and you were my friend and you did something to me when I was growing up, well, I was going to hurt you. The easiest way to hurt you was your wife or your daughter. And in my life, I've done those things with friends after they got divorced, still no justification, and with a couple of friends' daughters when I got older and they got older. And it was kind of like, okay, you want to play games? Let's play games. And the great thing is everything is voluntary. There's never any coercion. That's not something I could ever do or would ever do. But coming from a sex addict, people say, well, that's a cool thing. No, it's not. Many of the times when you're dealing with your sex addiction and you're acting out sex, it's not with someone you want to have sex with. It's with someone who's there. It's a body. It's there to help you get through that moment. Because think about it. Everything is momentarily, whatever our drug is. Mine was food, beautiful gift, gambling, another great gift, and sex, like the damn trifecta. But it numbed me. It took me years to have any correlation between it caring emotionally for someone I was with and sex. I always put, we have a great chemistry. And then when it came to the emotional aspect, only one time in my life I've ever had an emotional connection with a woman while I was having sex. One time. It was one of the most beautiful experiences. Never had it since, and that was in August of 2018. But I experienced that. And the emotions that flowed from that, and still do because I can think about it. Since then, I've realized I've put myself in situations where I can have a lot of fun, but why? What am I going to do? I'm going to get nothing out of it. I'm going to not have a relationship with the person. It's a waste of time. I make all these plans. You get excited. Then when the day comes, I've canceled so many times. It's just ridiculous. So I choose not to do those things now. I choose not to be a part of that because you are bringing other people into your problem. And 100% of the time, anybody that's been in my life, I'm very honest with them about that. I talk to them about my sex addiction, my other issues, my mental health issues. I don't want them walking into a trap or feeling something is not right and trying to figure it out. I'd rather figure it out in the beginning and share everything. When we deal with sex addiction now, a lot of people say, well, you know, someone has a strong sex drive or someone enjoys sex. And everybody looks like, well, men are the ones. I've met many women who deal with sex addiction. Now, a lot of people have always said to me, well, there must be some type of trauma when you were younger. There are people who deal with traumatic experiences and sex becomes a way that they cope. Sex is a way of people finding me attractive, which I've thought, well, I've always thought I never liked the way I look. No matter how I look, what people say, I still to this day kind of like, really? You're lying to me to a degree. I'm getting better with it. But at the same time, you're looking at people and you're trying to figure out if someone's lying to you. And so if someone's attracted to you, even if you're paying them, it's this amazing feeling because you're paying them for something. And then basically when we're done, you're going. There's a control issue to it as well. I never really want anybody to get close intimately because the reality is I've never really had anybody in my life that's ever said, well, let's sit down, let's talk about it. I've always been a caretaker. I was raised that way and I have no problems with it. I have no regrets, but I know I've missed out on anybody ever caring for me the way that I have cared for people in my life, the women that I've been with. So you start looking at yourself and it's a validation for all the different things that have happened. Look, I grew up an ugly fucking duckling. You know, I had glasses, I was heavy, made fun of in grade school, made fun of in high school. And then right after high school, it changed a little bit. Well, actually a lot. And so I remember those things. I remember the pain of being made fun of. My senior ball or senior prom, whatever you want to call it, the person I went with went home with somebody else. It's laughable now, but not really back then. You know, asking someone to dance at a high school dance and they say no, it's crushing for a boy or a girl. It's interesting. You'll see that men will ask women to dance. A little sidetrack here, and if a woman says no, it's acceptable. But if a woman asks a guy to dance, and a guy says no, holy sweet Mary, Mother of God, it's like the world's going to end. How dare you turn me down? But the distorted things that I viewed in my life, then that got me hanging out with different people who were in the same things that I were, whether it was the sex industry, whether it was drugs, whether it was alcohol, all the seedy parts of life that I've been part of are due to my addiction issues and the people that I kept in my life for whatever reason, for them or for me, that benefited both of us. A sex addiction is real. It's like any other addiction. It can kill you. It can bankrupt you. You can lose your family. You can lose your wife, your kids, anything and everything. I've met many people who are sex addicts that have put themselves in situations where they don't remember what happened the night before. And they know something happened, but they can't put their finger on it. Since I've never done drugs or alcohol, I've never been out of my mind when I've had sex on substances. I have euphoric in the way that the fantasies, every fantasy that I've ever wanted, I've lived. And I will continue to do that. But in the past, it was always coming from the sex addict, not the person seeking any human contact or enjoy. Now, I like a lot of different things that a lot of people would think, oh, God, that's a little too much. But that's what I like, and I don't have a problem with that. It took me years to be okay with what I like and realize there are people out there that are just like me and really are just like me, not like pretending to be. When I was younger and I'd meet people and this is the way I looked at life. I'd walk up, I'd say to someone, look, there's three things that could happen. Number one, you could slap my face and call the cops, or I could run like hell. Because I had no problem saying, look, you know, I'm interested in you. I just would like to have sex. And a lot of times it's straightforward and women have appreciated that. It's a different ballgame nowadays. When you have social media and stuff, you can figure things out. You can make plans. You can do it before you get there. Hell, you don't even have to show up. Sooner or later, AI is going to take over. So all you got to do is just put money in a damn machine and it works. But the reality is, for me, being a sex addict still is nerve-wracking because that's the one thing. Food I need to survive, yes. Gambling, no. But the intimacy, having someone tell you they love you, having someone tell you they like you, having someone tell you, you've got a great body, having somebody please you in that way emotionally. When I say please you, I don't mean do anything, but the kind words, it feels good. I've had that very few times in my life, no matter what scenarios I've ever been in. And so I've sought that out with other people. And then again, sharing this with people, I know people are going to make comments, they're going to make fun, they're going to judge me, they're going to not want anything to do with me, because people look at a sex addict as a dirty human being. I don't get that. It's just there's so many addictions out there that other people have, we just don't know. So we learn to accept. I've been with people who've had numerous amounts of partners. I don't care how many partners you've had in the past. That's not my business. I don't care what your career was. I know the number of women I've been with, and it's a very large amount of women over the years. And I would say a number, but it's really not important. It's just that it's way too many for what most people would think in life. And it's not that I'm bragging. I'm just being honest, because in my life, if I couldn't have sex 2 or 3 times a day with 1 or 2 different people, I was a failure. It didn't feel good. Now, the rest of my day, everything would go great. If I accomplished that, that would go great. It's interesting because food is my addiction. I meet 90% of the people I ever did anything with around food, in restaurants, working in restaurants, working in bars, those types of things, because there's an atmosphere for that. And there's a fun aspect to it. And one of the hardest things is waking up places you don't know where the hell you're at. Or waking up with someone and you don't know how to get them out of the house. Waking up with someone and you realizing, holy shit, I don't even know who this person is. But then you put your stuff together, you leave, and you're like, okay, the day started. It's like it never happened. And that's the way I looked at things a lot. And then it also created problems when I would have multiple partners and they would find out about each other. And I would tell everybody, look, here's what I'm doing. This isn't, one-on-one. This isn't you and I. But I never really took into consideration that the other person might have more feelings. Because I thought, well, I'm being honest. Well, my honesty was hiding in my addiction. My honesty was being selfish and self-centered, which I was for a long time in this situation. To this day, I have boundaries. And I take things slow. And I think things through. And if I know I'm going to be with someone, then I know that there's going to be a connection, and we can figure out what that person's into, what I'm into, what we're talking about. Communication is important. It's very important. And talking about this is not the easiest thing to do in the world. It's a little frustrating when I've shared this with people and people have made comments that are negative or think it's a cool thing to be. No, it's not. Because you have no idea in your life who's a sex addict. You might think that you're having a lot of sex with someone because they love you or they're attracted to you. That's a possibility, but it could also be that they're wanting to fill a void. And a lot of times, for me, I know I was with partners that thought that there was a bigger attachment mentally, so they felt better about the relationship. And I think a lot of times, many of us think, well, that person enjoys the sex life that they have with me, that they really like me, they really love me. Many times, it's just a momentary moment for pleasure. And so we have to really take a look at ourselves and ask, do we have issues with sex? Do we enjoy it when we have it? Or do we go through the motions? Is it just something to do? Or do you really feel the beauty, the emotional connection, the other person you're with? Do you like to please? Do you like to be part of it, not just be a selfish and a prick, which many people can be, men and women? It's something that's real. It's something that's honest. And I just want people to understand that there is help out there. There's some wonderful people. The number below, if you look at that, you can text us, you can call us. If you're looking for some help, we can definitely guide you. Not going to say we're ever going to cure you, but we can help you any way that we can. But this is the reality of my life, and I still deal with these thoughts on a day-to-day basis. If I didn't, I'd go to bed at night thinking about it, which I still do. I wake up in the morning, I think about it. But I also know that I have boundaries now. I have rules that I need to live by for me. Society has their own rules. In reality, I have my own rules too. So I have to live by my rules. So just wanted to share this with you, and thank you for listening. And hopefully someone who's dealing with something like this realizes there's other people like me, and we definitely can make some choices that are better for ourselves. You can follow me on the Dennis Henning YouTube, also social media. We have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitch. What is it? Tourette's? Oh, Threads. We might have Tourette's too. I don't know. If you like this episode, please like and share and subscribe and share it with other people on all social media. Please. Thank you.